So, the Gita is part of the Mahabharata, which is an important scripture. It's Itihas, historical scripture. It's composed by Vedvyas, who is the literal incarnation of the Supreme Lord. And Mahabharata is 110,000 verses, 110,000 verses, making it one of the longest poems in the world. And Bhagavad Gita is one small episode in the Mahabharata, small chapter, only 700 verses, that's all. But actually, it's the essence of the Mahabharata. And Mahabharata is considered to be Smriti. Smriti is, there's two types of scriptures, Smriti and Shruti. Smriti is...
Shruti.
Yeah, Smriti is where which is what is remembered. It can change according to time and circumstances. But Shruti is something which is substantial, which cannot change. And it's directly the Lord's instructions and contains eternal principles. So Shruti is very important, and Bhagavad Gita is regarded to be Shruti. So Mahabharata means the great story of the Bharatas, the King Bharat. Bharat, he was the early ancestor of both the Pandavas and the Kauravas who fought each other in this Mahabharata war. Now, he was very unique, this King Bharat, because the tradition was that one's eldest son would become king. But Bharat, in his family, he didn't see anybody qualified to become king. So he appointed the most qualified person in his kingdom to become the king. He did not stick to the hereditary tradition. And that's really very, very good, very important. Because you have to have somebody qualified at the top to rule. And it doesn't just apply to the top, but in every system, if you're not qualified, you're going to make a mess of whatever's going to happen, whatever's meant to happen. So anyway, after many generations, King Shantanu became the king of Hastinapur, and he was married to the most beautiful Ganga. And there's quite a story of how he met Ganga and how she made him promise that he can't question her. And if he questions her, he'll leave. And every time a son was born to them, she would drown them. Until the 8th son, he questioned her, "What are you doing?" Because he was shocked. Every time a son was born, she'd kill him. So then she said to him, "Okay, you've questioned me, now I'm going to leave, but I'm going to take this boy of ours and I'll bring him back to you at the right time. So don't worry."
Sorry, Prabhu, why did she do that?
Because these were the Vasus. They were cursed to die.
Yes, I do.
Each Vasus.
Okay.
But the last Vasu, the one who was the biggest culprit in whatever happened, he was destined to suffer in this world. And that was Devrat, later known as Bhishma. And Bhishma means terrible vow, because he found out that his father, when Ganga got him trained up by Brihaspati and Parshuram and all these great gurus, he came back to his father, Shantanu, and he found out later that his father fell in love with another woman called Satyavati. Yeah, thank you. And Satyavati, her father was a fisherman, and the father made a condition that, yes, you can marry my daughter, but my daughter's sons will become the king. And Shantanu couldn't agree to that because Devrat was so qualified. He didn't want to disappoint Devrat. Eventually, Devrat found out that this was the condition, and he made a promise to the father of Satyavati, "I will not marry. Your daughter's children will become the kings." And then there was all sorts of discussion between the Devrat and the father of Satyavati. And eventually, because he wasn't happy yet, because Devrat could have married, and he's got no control over his sons then. And Devrat said, all right, I will not marry. I will take a vow, I will not marry. And that was such a huge vow for a Kshatriya to vow he will not marry. It was huge. That's why this is called terrible vow. He got the name Bhishma. The demigods were very happy with Bhishma. Anyway, we haven't got a huge amount of time, so I'm going to skip through quite a lot. Bhishma didn't marry. Satyavati and Shantanu had two children, Chitrangada and Vichitravirya. And unfortunately, neither of them could bear children. Now, Satyavati had, and she requested Bhishma, okay, you have to get married now. And Bhishma said, no, how can I get married? I took a vow. The vow is irrelevant now, Satyavati said, because we don't have any children. Who's going to take over the kingdom of Hastinapur? You have to marry. And Bhishma said, no, I take a vow. So then Satyavati found another way. She had a son by a previous liaison, which was with another great sage, Parasar Muni. And her son was called Vyasdev, the famous Vyasdev. So she called upon Vyasdev. My sons have died, and they had 3 wives. I need you, 2 wives. I need you to impregnate them so that our tradition continues. And Vyasdev was very obedient to his mother. He said, yes, I can do that. But when Vyasdev came before Ambika and Ambalika, they both became frightened. One became pale. So that was the birth of Pandu, who was pale in his complexion. And the second closed her eyes. So that was the beginning of the Dharastra, was blind. So then he was requested, try one more time. And the queens were so dreading him. They sent a maidservant who gave birth to Vidur, the wise Vidur. So this is Vidur. Anyway, later on, Pandu, unfortunately, he died. He was in fact cursed first. He couldn't have children. But Kunti Devi had this incredible boon given to her by Durvasa Muni. You could call any demigod, and he will give you a child. And Kunti Mata, when she got the boon, she was amazed. She thought, let me try it. She called Surya Dev. Surya Dev came and she said, I'm not married. What are you doing here? You called on me. I can't leave empty-handed. You can't leave you empty-handed. I'm going to give you a child. So she got Kern, and unfortunately she had to abandon Kern because she was not married. Anyway, now Pandu was cursed not to have children. She revealed to him that I have the power to call upon the devatas to give us children. So they called upon Yamraj or Dharmraj. Yudhishthir came, Vayu, Bhim came, Indra, Arjun came. And then he had a second wife, Madri. Pandu had a second wife. So Kunti Devi was so generous, she invoked the Ashwini twins to come. And then there was the birth of Nakul and Sahadev. Anyway, later on, Pandu fell victim to the curse and he died. And the Pandavas were brought up by Kunti Mata on her own. They were known as the Pandavas. Yeah. So in the meantime, Dhritarashtra took over the kingdom, but he was blind. So he was just a caretaker. So that when Yudhishthira grew up, then he would become the natural king. Because they had children. Dhritarashtra had children with Gandhari, but they were a little younger than Duryodhana. And they were also... Oh yeah, Duryodhana was younger than Yudhishthira. But also they were wicked. Duryodhana had a very bad nature. So, and when he was born, in fact, when he was born, jackals were howling, there was strong wind, fires were raging. It was very inauspicious. In fact, Vidur advised him, kill your son. He's going to be trouble for you. But Dhritarashtra was very weak, and he allowed his sons, especially Duryodhana, to dictate what happened. And they tried to kill the Pandavas many ways. They tried to drown Bhim, but what happened? He got stronger. Anyway, they were trained by another guru called Dronacharya. Dronacharya was very powerful. And he trained them in the martial arts. Especially he trained Arjun because Arjun was so clever in learning about archery. And he made him the strongest personality. And there was one particular incident that Dronacharya tested his students, and Arjun passed with flying colors. And this is one for us, actually, because he said to his students, Yudhishthira, I have put a target in the tree. Can you spot it? So Yudhishthira aimed at the tree and he said, yes, I can see. What can you see? I can see your lotus feet. I can see the sky. I can see the tree. I can see branches. Then he asked his own son, Ashwatthama, what can you see? I can see the bird. I can see your lotus feet. Okay. And then he called upon Arjun, what do you see? Arjun said, I see the head of the bird. And now I see the eye of the bird. He was so focused. So this is one of the things that we have to put into our lives, focus. Our lives can become very, haphazard. We can become very easily, what's the word? Misled or distracted. That's the one, distracted from our real goal. Even as devotees, it's easy to become very, very distracted. In this world, there's so many different temptations. There's so many different, things that come up by the agency of Maya. So this focus is very important. If we don't get focused, we'll be misled. We will not get our target, which is to become God conscious. So focus in our spiritual life is very, very important. Other things, they may be important, but they're not as important as getting our spirituality connected to the Supreme Lord. So, okay, let's move it along. This is how Karna later on appears. There was a competition between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. Dronacharya had organized. His students had finished. So let's see who's the best out of them all. And ultimately, Arjun came out victorious. But then this amazing personality called Karna appeared on the scene. Who was Karna? Karna was the first son of Kunti, the eldest Pandav. But she couldn't say anything at that time because it would have been very strange. And Karna was actually adopted by a chariot driver. What was his name? Sanjay? No, the other one. Forgotten his name now. Devrat. No. Anyway, mother's name was Radhe. He was known as Radheya. And he was also known as Sutputra, son of a chariot, which is a low position. Adirat, yeah, well done. So then Adirat, Karn was insulted in this arena. And Duryodhana saw, hey, I can make a friend here. And he crowned him king of Angaraj. Now you are a Kshatriya. You can fight Arjun. And there was a bit of a fight in this mock fighting. And there was rivalry between Duryodhana, Karn, and against the Pandavas. Eventually, Karn sold his soul to Duryodhana. Just because Duryodhana did this one favor, he gave himself to Duryodhana. Just this one moment of association with the crazy fellow completely destroyed a good man, a great man. So we have to be careful who we keep company with, because we can easily lose all of our piety just by being associated with the wrong company. If we're misled by somebody, and it's easy to get misled, then we lose everything. Karn was actually a very righteous personality, but because of his allegiance with Duryodhana, he lost out. Even Krishna could not persuade him to change his attitude, his mood, even when Krishna told him that you are actually a Pandav, you're born of Kunti, you're Kaunteya, you're the eldest Kaunteya, I can make you king. But his allegiance to Duryodhana surpassed everything. Okay, so then Pandavas, many attempts were made to kill them by Duryodhana. Many plots were hatched. They were protected by Vidu, they were protected by Krishna. So many occasions. Arjuna won the hand of Draupadi in the Swayamvar. And somehow it happened that this is really interesting. Who is Krishna? So there's always this dispute. Who is Krishna? So this is according to the Srimad Bhagavad Puran and the Brahma Samhita. Krishna is actually the cause of all causes. And he has many avatars. Now, of course, many people will dispute this, even within our Hindu faith. Vishnu is first, and then Krishna came from Vishnu. Because when Krishna appeared, first he appeared as Vishnu, then turned himself as Krishna. But actually the scriptures is what we rely on, and that explains that Krishna is the Ishwara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Nadi Radhir Govind Sarva Karana Karma. Is the original cause of all causes. And from him comes Balaram, and then, as we've talked about in the last few days, the different avatars appear who are as powerful as Krishna, but the original is still Krishna. But if somebody says Narayan is the original cause of, we don't really argue, because at the end of the day, it's one and the same person. But this is what the scriptures say. Anyway, eventually it happened that Draupadi married all 5 of the brothers. And that may sound very unusual, but that arose due to a curse that not curse, but a boon that she'd received in her previous birth when she was praying to Lord Shiva. But we won't go into that in any detail. Anyway, then the Pandavas, they were in hiding because they were trying to assassinate them by putting them in a fire. And they revealed themselves eventually. And Yudhishthir made the plea to Maharaj Dashrath that you should give us back the kingdom. But Dashrath was too attached to the kingdom, too attached to Duryodhana. Duryodhana threatened suicide many a time. Eventually, they gave him half the kingdom, the horrible half, Kandavprasth, which was just some desert. But they converted Kandavprasth into Indraprasth, into a massive kingdom, which was surpassed anything that was present in Hastinapur. Duryodhana became very jealous of what Yudhishthir had and invited them to a gambling match where his uncle, Shukuni Mama, cheated and took away everything from the Pandavas, even their own freedom. And they were eventually sent to the forest to stay there for 14 years. And last year would be incognito. And in that arena, actually, was the destruction of the Kauravas, because Draupadi was insulted. They tried to remove the clothing of Draupadi, and nobody, practically speaking, nobody spoke up. Nobody defended Draupadi. Even her husbands did not defend her, except Krishna. Krishna gave her unlimited sari. And this is one of the main reasons why the Kauravas met with such destruction, including the great Bhishma. Okay, so then Pandavas were in the forest for 14 years, and eventually they came back, and there was a peace proposal even by Krishna to the Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. Give them 5 villages. They're Kshatriyas, they have to rule. And Duryodhana was so jealous and envious of them because he saw what they did with Kandavpras. He said, I won't give them enough land even that can sit on a piece of, tip of a needle. So his stubbornness really caused the confrontation at Kurukshetra. They decided that they would have a battle to rid the world of the impious kings. That was one of the plans of Krishna. When Krishna came, the earth was overburdened by unruly kings. And this is a really interesting situation that took place, where Duryodhana was waiting for Krishna. He wanted his armies. And Krishna saw Arjun first, and he said to Arjun, what would you like? And Arjun said, Duryodhana protested, I was here first. He said, doesn't matter, I saw Arjun first, and he's younger. He can have first choice. Okay. Krishna said, you can either have me and I won't fight, or you can have my army. What do you want, Arjun? I'll have you. This is the nature of the devotee. He only wants the Lord. And Duryodhana was chuffed. Hey, great stuff. I've got the army of Krishna. And Krishna not fighting. So anyway, the armies gathered, and Duryodhana's army was far larger, far larger than that of Krishna, that of the Pandavas. And this is an incident as when Krishna came as the messenger of peace. Duryodhana wanted to capture him and tie him, bind him. And at that time, Krishna showed his universal form. It's very interesting. Okay. So the battle was about to start, and Arjun asked Krishna, please take my chariot in the middle of the battlefield. I want to see who's come to fight. And Krishna, he took the chariot right in front of Bhishma. And that shook up Arjun. And this is what Krishna will do to us as well. He'll make us confront our greatest weakness. He'll test us. Mind you, Guru Maharaj used to say, forget about testing. Krishna will never test us because we're so weak. But he did that to Arjun. He took him right before Bhishma. his grandfather, his most beloved grandfather. And at that moment, Arjun had weakness of heart. He said, how can we fight? I rather they kill me, put my weapons down. I'm not going to fight. If I fight and kill these warriors, even if I win, what have we won? We've destroyed so many men who protect the women. And then there'll be unwanted progeny. He gave so many arguments as to why not to fight. And we'll see that tomorrow. And this is where the Bhagavad Gita begins, where Krishna then gives Divya Gyan to Arjuna. So I wanted to stop there. Any questions, any comments, anything anybody like to add? Because I only did a very quick, brief summary of the Mahabharata.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Animan.
Yes, I just have to leave soon, so
Okay.
I go off at any time, okay? Yeah.
Thank you for joining.
Yeah.
We did a little bit on that's the last bit of the abodes, so you can just catch up later on.
Yes, I'll catch it up later on. I'm a bit busy today, so.
No problem. Thank you for joining. Thank you.
Okay, Prabhuji.
And tomorrow we're going to read the whole Gita
Yes.
in English. So
yes. So we're starting at, is it 2:30 or 3:30?
no, at 3:30 we'll start normal time.
Normal time.
And on Saturday we're starting at 2 o'clock because then the Sanskrit will take a little longer.
Yeah, I'm trying to read chapter 3 in Sanskrit, but some of the words are quite difficult for me. Is that okay? I don't know.
Absolutely fine. Don't worry.
All right.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
No problem.
Okay.
We're going to have Nutanji here, who's going to guide us through as well. So don't worry at all. And I think Shruti is going to join on Saturday. Karuna is there. We've got experts.
They're experts. I'm nothing.
No,
But I
No,
just
you're everything.
just
Sorry, Nutanji.
yeah. Okay, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Sorry, Nutanji, you were saying something?
I said no expert, just going along the path.
No, thank you so much. Fantastic. Okay, so let's go to the Nrsimha Kavach. Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Gita Jayanti tomorrow ki jai. And it's Ekadashi as well, so we will read the Ekadashi Katha. And Ekadashi is always good to follow, so I hope devotees are able to follow. It's very, very important, Ekadashi. So, Hare Krishna.